Hey guys, I'm back, and like I promised, I got another pair of Agalloch songs for you. Today I'm going to be playing She Painted Fire Across the Skyline, all three parts, as well as the Hawthorne Passage. Now, unlike the last video where I just showed one riff from each song, today I'm going to do like the majority of the riffs. Probably not any leads or melodies, but we're going to get a lot of riffs. Now, the choice in songs might seem kind of arbitrary, but if you actually pay really close attention to what's going on, there's a lot in the Hawthorne Passage that's actually kind of recycled from the first part of She Painted Fire Across the Skyline. Now, both songs are primarily focused on alternating between E minor and G major, although the Hawthorne Passage has a little bit of A add 9 on top of that. So I'm just going to start with the Hawthorne Passage. It starts off like so. On top of that, you get this little E power chord thing going on. And on top of the A sus2, you're going to get this. So, how does this relate to She Painted Fire Across the Skyline? Well, the song starts off with the same exact thing, the E power chord. But I actually think it's played on with the open E and the fretted 12th fret B. So it's going to sound more like this. And of course the chords underneath it, E minor, G major, I'm doing a really quick splice here just to do a little correction on that riff. When we're playing the intro for She Painted Fire Across the Skyline, you get an E minor, G, E minor, and then G. This little piece here, it's I guess an inverted F power chord. That's the closest thing it's going to be. But it's more of just a passing note. And then you go into this tremolo pick thing. I'm not really sure what it is, so I'm not going to try and demonstrate it, but it's sort of a... And that's not exactly where the similarities end, because the next section of She Painted Fire and a part that comes in later in the Hawthorne Passage, once again, sound very, very similar. For the Hawthorne Passage, it's the riff that sounds like this. sharp, G. This is a G sus2. Last night I hoped and wished I'd die in my sleep, but no catharsis was granted to me. So this part is where the similarities between the two songs end. There's a jump cut there because I screwed up once again. And the next part I'm going to show is She Painted Fire Across the Skyline, Part 2. Once again, we're still in this E minor G thing. We're going back and forth. The first chord is an E add 9. So we're going to play, it's just 1, 5, 2, and then the open 3 on G. And then the second chord is just a G major triad. And then we're going to end that chord by using the F sharp as a pedal point. Is it a pedal point? Now I forget my terminology. Whatever, a bridge? I'm not really sure. Anyway, the chord progression, the arpeggios. And then the next part, which is also the riff that's played over the guitar solo, which I have certain opinions about, you're going to go to the A sus9, C major 7, and then an F sus9, which is just an F power chord with the open G. And then at the very end of the song, you have this these arpeggioed chords. It's between an E minor triad. You're playing essentially backwards, 5 3 1 5 3 1 5 3 1, and then the second chord is an inverted B minor triad. So you're playing 3 5 1. And then part 3 kicks in, love the transition, and still it's going to be alternating between E minor and an inverted G power chord. The second time around you add a D power chord. And that's pretty much all the major riffs that you'll find in the song. Part 3 pretty much it brings back some of the stuff from the first two parts, like the intro, as well as the arpeggios from the end of part 2 played on a piano. But it's mostly just the same idea. So anyway, the final part of this video is going to be the second half of the Hawthorne Passage, which is probably one of my favorite parts in the Mantle. I think it's a pretty complicated piece, actually. Hey, if you noticed that I just suddenly changed shirts, it's because after finishing the video I realized that I've been playing the first part of the second half of the Hawthorne Passage incorrectly, so I pretty much have to redo it. The original take wasn't that great anyway. I made a lot of mistakes playing it. So anyway, there's a lot of really precise, nifty picking patterns in this section, so I'm going to have to go through everything that's played on a bar-by-bar basis. What happens is you go from this E minor to G major thing. We're modulating to G major, the relative major of E minor, and what we do is we tonicize the 5, which is D in this case. The first section is primarily composed of alternating between picked bass notes on the 5th string and an open accented D on the 4th string. For the first 2 bars, the first bar is going to be fretted D with accented open Ds on 3 of the first measure, 3 and 4 of the second measure. After that, we're going to shift down to C and play the same exact thing. And we use an open A to transition between the 2 bars. And it's going to sound like this. We're going to play that D piece again. This time we're not going to use the open A to shift down to C, and then the picking pattern is going to change. So what happened there is the open accented D, we added an extra one on 2 of the first measure. So now we have accented Ds on 2 and 3 of the first measure, as well as 3 and 4 of the next measure. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a picking pattern and then apply it to a C in the bass, a B in the bass, and then we're going to repeat that again before we move on to the second section of the second half of the Hawthorne Passage, where I will magically switch clothes back to what I was previously wearing because that part was okay. So it's going to sound like this. And we're going to move into the next part, which is probably my favorite part of the song. But just in case I wasn't clear, I'm going to go back and play this whole piece again. And it's going to sound like this. Oh wait, I actually played an open D there. It's just a double pick the first 2 notes. The second riff, we go back to the tonicized D and we add an open B. Again, the picking pattern here is pretty precise, and this is actually probably one of the harder things to figure out. You have to listen really close to what's going on because it's hard to tell what whether you're playing an open D or a fretted D. It's easier to pay attention to the second chord, the C, because you still have the open D and there's a bit of a difference between, well, there's a noticeable difference between 2 sounds because it's a different pitch. But generally speaking, the pattern for this is going to be every time you play an open B, the immediate note after that is going to be an open D. You're playing 8th notes, and you're always playing a note, no pauses like during the first part. And whenever you're not jumping between B and D, you're pretty much alternating between the fretted 5th and the open 4th. The last thing I'm going to say before I start playing is that the open Bs are on beat 2 and 3 and the and of 4 of the first measure, and then another one on 3 of the second measure. So that's going to sound like this. Last part, instead of playing a C, you're gonna play this. It's gonna be a Lydian 4th with C, the Lydian 4th, and then the open G. Double pick the first note. That should be easy enough to figure out. But this is a really beautiful riff. It's one of my favorites by Agalloch in general, and it's just really fun to play once you get it down. So. And I know the explanation for this probably wasn't too clear, because this is actually a pretty hard riff to play. It's something that would be way easier to see in a guitar tab, but I don't actually tab other songs, unfortunately. You're going to have to look at tabs online, and you're going to have to check to see if they're actually right. The stuff I've mentioned, even though I haven't exactly played things correctly, the stuff that I've mentioned in this video is correct. So the accents on, for the open B, the accents on 2, 3, and a 4, and on 3. And for the first section, the accented open Ds, which are on 3, and then 3 and 4, or they're on 2 and 3, and then 3 and 4 for the Cs and the Bs. But that's pretty much all I wanted to show for this video. I know it's a pretty long video. Like I said, I played a lot more riffs this time, but I think there's a lot to learn from these two songs, and that's all I've got. Thanks for watching. I don't know if I'm going to do 1 or 2 more videos of Agalloch riffs. If I do one video, it's pretty much just going to be riffs here and there from the Mantle, and that's going to be it. So yeah, see you around.